All right, joining us now on Drive the Lane, the head basketball coach of the Ohio State men's team, Coach Jake Diebler. Welcome to the show.
Happy to be here, finally.
Long time coming, Jake, and I have a hard time calling you coach because when we were first together, you were a video coordinator named Jake Diebler who was assigned the walk-on Joey Lane to make sure that he didn't get in too much trouble, which you realized was pretty quickly. But it has been a long time coming. We're thrilled to have you on here. I guess my first question for you is when Andrew introduces you as head basketball coach, has that clicked yet? Have you realized that you are the head basketball coach at Ohio State, or are you still figuring that out?
I'm reminded, certainly on a daily basis in a couple ways. One, just with a sense of like gratitude and, um, really just honored, quite honestly, to be in this position and reminded every single day when I get to come to work. And so I don't take walking into this building for granted on a single day. Um, And then I'm reminded by the elevated levels of stress and things you have to think about and all that stuff as the season quickly approaches.
Similar to what Joey's saying, I mean, how fun has this process been for you over the last, 8 months?
It's been a lot of fun. I'd have to do the math. I don't know if a full 8 months yet was fun, but no, it's been a lot of fun. Certainly, again, when everything happened last February, didn't anticipate, being in this situation and really wasn't thinking about trying to get to this position. It really was about serving our players, kind of finishing that season well, and really just that. When the opportunity, presented itself, obviously, it didn't take me long to think about. Um, and then it was hit the ground running, and it's been fun. It's not to say it hasn't been hard. There haven't been challenges, but I'm having a blast. I love coming to work every day. I love everything about, including the challenges about being a head coach. So we're making the most of it.
And we're thrilled. I know I speak for everybody, whether it's former players, whether it's Buckeye fans. Everyone's thrilled to have you. We're excited about this year. And you mentioned it. It was really important to hit the ground running and really get a roster together because in this new age of college basketball, things are changing so quickly. As you're putting together that roster, obviously we know the guys now. What was the thought process on going out and getting player XYZ to make the team that you have now? What was the thought process there?
Yeah, there's a lot of moving parts in the spring, and it's become the hardest, particularly April, really. End of March and throughout April has become the hardest time in college basketball because there's so much going on. It's not just the transfer portal, it's not just roster retention. There's actually some high school recruiting going on in that time, and then you throw in the Final Four. It's a lot. However, we I had a pretty good indication of how we wanted to play, which was validated at the end of last season with an increased pace and aggressiveness, really on both sides of the ball. So went out and tried to recruit to that. We were able to add, athleticism and versatility in our front court, added two-way, really um, multiple two-way players in the portal. And so that also was important to complement who we had returning. And I feel like the pieces fit. The other encouraging thing, which it's hard now because although like Sean Stewart, we had a previous relationship, we didn't have a previous relationship with Aaron or Micah. A little bit with Quez actually from when I was at Vanderbilt and he was coming up through high school. But so you don't fully know. You try your best to get to know people as well as you possibly can in what is a very condensed time period. Um, because I also wanted to be mindful about the chemistry of this team. And so far, that has seemed to be like we seem to really get that part right. There's been a great chemistry, certainly off the court, which really started from day one. We tried to be intentional about building opportunities to improve that and to create that, but it happened organically, really starting from day one, which was cool to see. Now we're trying to build that same chemistry on the court because we have talented players. You know, got a guy like Michi Johnson who's familiar with Ohio State, who had relationships with some of the guys here. That certainly helps. But when you look at adding talented players from the portal to already, having talented players on your roster, you want it to blend well off the court and on the court. We've done that off the court. We're now, working this fall and doing it on the court.
How's the team looking? That's $1 million question. Everyone's wondering, you're talking about chemistry off the court, but how we looking? Because we're excited over here at Drive the Lane.
Yeah, I'm excited. I'm excited. You don't fully know. I think the biggest challenge when you have so many new pieces is how are you going to respond to adversity? Because you guys have seen our schedule, non-conference and conference alike. It's very challenging, we'll say. And we're excited about that. We wanted to test ourselves early to see where we were, to get a good gauge of where we are as a team so we could keep growing. I think, for us, the exciting thing about this team, certainly the veteran guards and the experience our guards have, I think really sets us up. But then you have this talent in the front court that is not near as experienced as our backcourt, but I think that gives us an opportunity to see significant growth as the year goes on, which is really exciting. Certainly, we have to be good early, but this is a team I think that will really grow as the year goes on. Practice has been good. We haven't had great days every day. I'm not going to sit here and be that guy, but the one thing I will say about this group is every day we practice really hard and we compete. Some days we may take care of the ball better than others. Some days our offense may get the better of our defense. But right now the consistency of competition and work ethic has been really impressive.
How about some guys that maybe even the non-casual Ohio State fan, but everyone knows Aaron Bradshaw was a McDonald's All-American. They're excited about him. Everyone knows Bruce Thornton because he's been here for 100 years and will be here for 100 more years. Who are some guys? Give us a few that you're really excited about. You've seen it in practice that maybe Buckeye Nation isn't as familiar with.
Well, I said publicly, and Joey, you're the type of guy who probably asked me to list this, but I'm not going to. I said publicly, I felt like we had 7 or 8 starters, and I meant that. I think we really do right now today. I'd feel comfortable with about 7 or 8 different guys, starting. We have to figure out how we're going to close games, but I've been impressed with, our freshmen have played well, and had some really good moments, including, Yvonne, who didn't get here till fall semester started. I think Evan Mahaffey has gotten better. I think Devin Royal is starting to put some really good days together. I think those guys, obviously the portal additions get talked about a lot, but there's also been some really good play from some guys who have been here and some of our younger guys. I've been really impressed with the chemistry our guards have had, because we have some firepower in our backcourt, and the way they've played off of each other has been really good. So I haven't looked out there and said, man, here's 1 or 2 guys that haven't embraced what we're doing or haven't made a jump. I feel across the board, everybody's really has improved. And I think it's a credit to who they are as people and the way they work, but I also think our staff deserves a lot of credit too for that.
I kind of have a random question. You mentioned, being at Vandy, pretend they didn't have this massive win over Bama last week. So my question is, how great of a recruiting tool is the Ohio State football team and atmosphere when you're going, all right, we got this guy coming. I know that we're playing Notre Dame today or whoever the team may be.
Well, the best thing about Ohio State football on Saturdays for us in the recruiting space is that there is no better display of the passion, the power, and the love Buckeye Nation has for Ohio State athletics. It's the best display. It's incredible. When we walk around and people are tailgating, people are like, we feel the energy, and we're not about to go play. And so then you get into the stadium, and I think, when we have guests of our program there and they get to see just feel that energy, make no mistake, it's it's also fun to watch the best football team in the country play. Um, so yeah, it's a great representation of Buckeye Nation. There's really no better representation, even as good as as our crowds are here in the shot and especially the energy we had to finish last season. It's sheer numbers. We can fit just over 19,000 in our arena. They're over 100. And then you got all those people who just show up to be there who don't even go to the game. So it's pretty special. But I do believe I'd have to fact check this. I think Darius Garland's official visit was Alabama coming into Vanderbilt football. At that time, it didn't go as good as this past weekend. So it's not always, a deal breaker, but no, having the best football team in the country helps.
I got a couple of practice adjacent questions for you. First, are you planning on being on scout team this year, or are you just gonna watch this time?
I've been pretty transparent with a lot of things. There's some things I feel like need to be kept in house. I don't quite have it like I used to when you used to not be able to guard me.
Yeah,
Um,
I probably still can, honestly, even if you don't have all of it.
no, what I do make sure I do though is if I can catch some guys before practice, I try to remind them that I believe I'm the best shooter in the program.
Yep.
Um, but no, I can't get out there like I used to. But Taylor Battle in a pinch, if we need a sub, he's still got it a little bit. He can get out there. He doesn't quite look like first team All Big Ten like he used to, but you could tell there's some good history there.
Andrew, my freshman year, the scout team was Jake Diebler, Greg Paulus, Greg Oden, Joey Lane, and Robbie Rucky, the manager. It had to be one of, I can't imagine there being a better scout team, even though we didn't. I mean, Coach Mata, you just ran the plays and that's it. Like there was no playing until GP after practice would just play guys one on one. And you
I don't
just,
know about scout team. I just know we had some epic manager games.
well, that's what my next question was. Well, are you planning on getting
Yes,
running after practice with the managers? That was my
we
or
we do
before.
have some good staff manager games. Absolutely.
Good, good. Those are. There's nothing better than those games when I used to come up early, and I remember Bulls would be like, "Get in here and play," and I'm like, "We have to go lift." Like I can't. But then what was even more fun was go on the road, getting to go and watch the managers play each other. That was the most fun ever, especially because I mean, like guys like Robbie was just genuinely a really good basketball player going up against these 5'8" managers and stuff. But those games are incredibly competitive. I mean, did you ever, when you were video coordinator, did you play in those games ever?
I did, and probably my favorite game of all time was here when Juan Dixon was at Maryland and he
Oh,
played. So you had Juan Dixon on the court, you had Greg Oden on the court, and I grew up watching like that Maryland team was elite. So I
sure.
was I was kind of a fan at first. And then I think Juan Dixon pushed off with some physicality to get open. And then it was like, oh, okay, game on. But at first I was like, oh, wow, this is Juan Dixon. Like this guy was a bucket. But there were
There
some
was
pretty good manager games over the years. That
I
was a lot.
remember that game. I don't think I was there, but I remember some stories from that game, including some managers that we could say for another show another time.
I Joey and I want to be as much of a PR arm for you as possible. So I gave you that football softball of, oh, what do you think about the football program? That's an easy one. We can put that clickbait on Twitter. But also just a little lesson in PR. If you ever have like a boot on the bench and the story is after practice, Coach Jake Diebler sprains ankle in staff game, that would be like the ultimate good PR moment. So even if you don't have an injury, I recommend throwing a boot on for like one of the games because that's always a great way to get some people on your side. Wow, this guy's still getting after it. He's coaching through the injury. So that's my advice to you.
I'll take that under consideration. I feel like I'm a little bit too mobile on game days to be in a boot, but and Lord willing, I don't have to deal with that. So if you somehow if this comes to fruition, I will be blaming the two of you, certainly.
Totally understand. I do remember GP hurt his ankle pretty bad in practice. I don't know if you were gone to Vandy by that point. It was one of my first 2 years, but he refused to wear a boot or get any treatment, and it was like swollen, like over his shoe, like it was so bad. But
He's a tough guy. Yeah, he's a
yeah,
tough guy.
absolutely. I mean, the coaching tree of from my freshman year and the caliber of toughness of those guys, and then also where they're at now is pretty remarkable. So I feel like that's like partly like in a weird way, like my reverse coaching tree. You know,
What's
you, Bowles, GP.
great players. It all starts with great players, including you. Yeah.
Thank you for that caveat. Jake, we have a live show coming up in Chicago here in about 2.5 weeks in Chicago. Like I said, do you have a message to, Ohio State alumni are in full force in Chicago. Do you have a message that we can share with them when they're all at our show?
I think just I wish you'd come by. Well, you've seen practice.
I have.
Maybe your co-host could come check out a practice at some point. But I think let them know what you saw. Hearing from you, it's easy for me to sit up here and talk about, how excited I am. I get to see our guys every day, but you've been around the game long enough. I think, be honest with what you saw. I think I'm really excited about this group and again, the chance of this group to get better as the season goes on. But I think you can help Buckeye Nation know we're going to be playing an exciting brand of basketball and we're going to be competing with everything we have and playing as hard as we possibly can. We don't have a lot of rules in this program, like in between the lines. You know what I mean? It's play really, really hard. Don't ever quit on plays and communicate. Be aggressive. Don't play safe. Don't look over at the bench. Like that's our rules in between the lines. So that's who we're going to be, and I've said this and I want to drive this home to you being a former player. I want our former players to be proud of what they see in person and on TV. That is very important to me. That is very, I do not take lightly the responsibility of us representing those who came before us. So that's kind of where it starts for me. And then that hopefully trickles into Buckeye Nation.
Speaking of former players, I work for TBT, the basketball tournament. Joey's done some work with TBT in the past, including calling games this year. Carmens Crew Championship, your first year as coach. I mean, I see the direct connection there, but how cool was that for you over the summer?
I love the TBT. It's interesting. Back when I was here as video coordinator, and that this was originally kind of coming about, we had talked about getting a team together in that initial time frame, and then I ended up leaving, and I think Scooney Penn was instrumental in picking it up and taking it off. So I love it. I love it. I think it's awesome for our fans. I just getting a chance to watch, even though, I think what we have maybe 5 or 6 former players this year, getting a chance to watch those guys again in a competitive environment is so fun to me. And it brings back a ton of memories. It brings back, you see Jared Solinger out there and you think back to some of just the epic performances he had in a Buckeye uniform and going on a tournament run. And then you go back to when they won it the time before. And obviously that one was even cooler for me because my brother's on the team. And I got to witness how close that group was in that era. And it also rallies, like when they're practicing here, you'll see some of the other guys pop in and out and check in on them. So I love it. I wish we could have like vet camp every once a month. I wish we could have former player dinners once a month. I wish we could, play TBT like 3 times a year. I just, anytime our former players are around, I think it's awesome. I love it. I love the connection. And we were due for another championship in the TBT and Sully and those guys delivered.
You mentioning your brother has prompted me to ask you a question that you can answer however you want, because I know in theory you could be sensitive / get in trouble about it, but give us for better or worse, your all-time Buckeye starting 5.
Ooh, all time?
All time in the sense of like that you've had direct relationships with. Like I want like your guys, however you interpret it, Like
Can
if
you
you throw
can
in
you
John
put a
Havlicek on there, you're throwing John Havlicek on there. But
can you put
you're
like a time? Can we break it down into like a specific time frame? Because
yeah, let's do post 2000s. Is that good enough or even later?
I just got to make sure I get this. Where was 99 the cutoff for the it's Mike? So that's post Mike Red, right?
I think technically that would be, but I would count him because Scooney's still playing post 2000. So I guess that counts, you know? That's one team.
Well, I mean, listen, if Mike Red can be on the list, he's on the list. All right. Think you got to go with Greg Oden at center. Um, Evan Turner, Mike Red, Mike Conley. I'm running out of spot. This is crazy. D'Angelo Russell. Can I bring John Diebler as my sixth man? Provide some
Absolutely.
spacing for some of
Reach
those guys to go
seven
to
or eight
work.
starters. That's your
Yeah,
thing.
I get seven. That's
you're
right.
starting five, which
That's right.
means 7 or 8.
So I get eight. So John, Aaron Craft.
A lot of guards.
That's probably, yeah, that is true. Well, Dave Lighty, I think there's so much value in David Lighty. So I would put him on there too. I'll add Terrence Dials. How about that? Big Ten Player of the Year, another big. I don't know how many that is. What we're up to.
That sounds
I
good.
could keep going. Honestly, could I have a starting 12?
Yeah.
We could just keep. I'd love to have Jay Sean Tate on the court. Tough, versatile, physical. Um, yeah, I don't know how.
I'm totally stealing Andrew's thunder here because this is a question he usually asks, but you've made me think, and I think you have a quick answer for this. If you could add one guy to the team this year, and I know you've thought about it, you're like, man, if only we had so and so from years past, who would round out this team?
That's not a fair question because I could that changes daily right now. There's sometimes where I look out there. I mean, there's some of the guys I just named. It doesn't matter who's on the team. You're going to want to add those guys.
100%.
So I would say though,
Yeah, today, this morning, who do you think?
after yesterday's practice, I would add D'Angelo Russell. If you'd asked me this question a couple days, like I'd say about 3, 4 days ago, it would have been John Diebler because we didn't shoot the ball particularly well that day. And then if you would have been back a little bit before that, it would have been Greg Oden because we needed some help protecting the rim that day. So that's the hard part about the fall is every day it changes a little bit, and it's also the great thing because I think we're seeing different guys step up on different days, which again raises the ceiling of this team. So pretty exciting stuff.
I have one final question for you. How happy are you first year coaching in the Big Ten, Zach Edey gone?
He's 1-0 against Zach Edey.
True.
Well, that may be true, but I prefer to keep it that way. So I am, happy to see Zach Edey leave. However, Matt Painter with what he's been proven to do over his career, I don't anticipate it being easier to go against Purdue. It may be different. I think it'll be different certainly, but I don't know that we can anticipate it'll be easier. But Zach Edey was the ultimate cheat code. I mean, it was crazy. And the crazy part, and people, unless you really got a chance to watch them over, and like Purdue fans probably knows because they watched them so much. He got significantly better from the year before to last year. It was incredible, and it's by all accounts of everything you hear and the way Painter talks about him and just work ethic and all those things. But I was that's the part for me that was so impressive about him was he went from being a great player to an even greater player, and I thought the jump was significant. But all the best to him in the NBA, and thankfully will not be in the Big Ten anymore.
I mean, he's going to win Rookie of the Year because he looks like he's gotten even better. It's since he's got to the NBA. Like the clips of him shooting 40 footers, like they're layups. I mean, anyway, I'm glad to see him gone. But Jake, we will get you out of here. We have one last question for you. It's how we end every single interview. I'm sure you've listened to your brother's interviews because he's been on here a handful of times. I'm sure you listen to Andrew Dockich's interviews. The list goes on and on. I know you're a longtime listener, so you know what's coming. We ask everybody to turn, we flip the tables on them. We let you become the interviewer for a sec. You ask us some questions. So if you have any questions for us, the floor is yours. The time is yours, and then we'll get you out of here.
I would ask both of you your all-time favorite Ohio State basketball win.
Andrew, you want to go first?
I'm worried we have the same answer, so you can go first because you
I
were
can
on the
assure you
team.
we don't have the same answer, but I would say it comes down to two for me. On the road at Purdue, my junior year, Kata's tip-in buzzer beater. Purdue is number 2 in the country. I had a exam the next morning at 8 a.m. that I also did really well on when I got home at 4 o'clock in the morning from West Lafayette. So like it was like a full like 12 hours of like happiness. And like I remember being like, I don't know why I'm even taking this exam. I shouldn't be here. I'm a big bad basketball player, but here we are. That's the first one that comes to mind. The second one comes to mind is Iowa State in the NCAA tournament when we were 11 seed. That upset when we had no business winning that game. I look back on that team and wonder how we won any games at all during the year, let alone make the NCAA tournament. So that was like the only time I could remember being like, hey, this is Big Ten basketball. Welcome to the Big Ten. Like this is Ohio State. And we just took it to them. So those are the two that come to mind. I have a million others. I mean, storming the court against Michigan State at home when they were number one.
Was that the shot? Was that the shot Dockich hit?
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
gosh, the amount of times I had to see that shot.
Literally, it's unbelievable. I got tweeted about it yesterday. I mean, like it's just unbelievable how
That was big time. It was big time.
seriously. I mean, so there's a lot of games that I could think of. Those are my top three. But number one, first one that comes to mind always is Purdue on the road because road wins are.
Yes.
I mean, it's just so much fun. And Holt used to leave the doors open. We're singing songs. We're banging the lockers. Purdue staff members like from the arena are coming in like, can you guys chill a little bit? Like, don't break anything. Like that was a fun night.
So I was going to say that Purdue game also, which is why I wanted you to go first, but I wasn't on the team, so it doesn't hit as well. But I think it's the Elite Eight when Sullinger and Kraft beat Syracuse, if I'm remembering that correctly, to go to the Final Four. That was an all-time game. And then, Joey, when we were at the game
Of course, that's
against Duke,
yeah,
and they stormed the court and we saw Kyle Young and he was like, I don't know what's going on right now. and
Kyle's like, thank God I ran into you guys. Please help me. And we like literally escorted him off the court, like pushing guys out of the way.
And somehow I was in the locker room after the game. So that was my, I will say the win over Duke. And then the next day we got to interview EJ. So that was and Justin Arns. That was a great little 2-day period.
Well, we got to make some more. We got to make some more memories. We got to have some wins to help change that list.
Yes, absolutely. We are open to changing the list.
Well, I appreciate you guys and just following the program, and certainly, I know it's not exclusive to our program, but Ohio State in general, and that being able anytime we can. I think for me, anytime we can provide a glimpse into our program for Buckeye Nation and platforms that can help provide that, we want to certainly support. So I suppose this went well enough that if you need me again sometime, we can make it happen.
We can make it a yearly thing, maybe, Coach. We'll keep it to once a year for your sake.
Wait, Coach, before you leave, you have to say this is Coach Jake Diebler, and you're listening to Drive the Lane podcast.
This is Coach Jake Diebler, and you're listening to Drive the Lane podcast.
Perfect.
How was that?
Perfect.
That was pretty good, right?
Yeah, that was really good.
One take.
One take, Jake.
We can't coin. Let's not say that.
One take Drake is famous.
I don't know that.
It's okay. You at one point, I guarantee you did know that, but you forgot that.
Really?
That's been a thing for a long time. Yeah.
Okay. All right.
And on that note,
see you guys.
Thanks, Jake.
Thank you.
Later.